Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Atha Chaturdashodhyayaha. The 14th chapter begins after the first 13 chapters. There were many places discussions about the creation, and it was finally said in the 13th chapter that the seer and the seen, the kshetrajna and the kshetra, together bring about this creation. So how does this creation actually, how is it brought about? There may be such a question. Also, it was talked that this Prakriti, the power of the Lord, creates. So, can Prakriti create independently, or is she dependent on the Lord, whose power she is? There may be another such question. There could also be questions on something that was again said in the 13th chapter, that a person who is identified with this Prakriti or the gunas of the Prakriti, such a person is bound. Now, what are these gunas? Prakriti was a little bit explained in the 13th chapter, but what are these gunas? Which gunas? How do they bind? What happens when they bind? What are their expressions? And how can we get liberated from this bondage, and what are the qualities of a liberated one? These also need to be explained. So to answer such questions, to give more information on these topics, Bhagavan himself begins speaking in this 14th chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. And he starts with saying, I again explain to you, I shall tell you again. So what is this again? Why this repetition? Does it mean the student is not attentive enough or is not capable to understand when said once? It is like Puja Gurudev explains very beautifully, a mother feeding the child. The mother again and again puts a morsel one after the other into the mouth of the child, coaxing the child in various ways, showing a sparrow out of the window, telling the child a story, entertaining the child in various ways, and making sure that again and again a morsel of food keeps going into the mouth. Till when will she do this? Till she feels the child has had enough. Same way, like a mother, Shri Krishna here also is again coming up with discussion. True to his spirit of this teaching, Shri Krishna, we say Krishnam Mande Jagat Gurum. He is the best teacher of the world. And why do we call him the best? Because as Puja Gurudev says, in various places, Shri Krishna, before coming to the point, does a lot of publicity. And by this, he glorifies this knowledge and attracts the attention of everyone who is listening to him, whether it is Arjuna or all of us now listening to him. So in the first two verses, he talks about the glory of this knowledge, and he says this is the best possible knowledge, and the one who knows this, one who gets introduced to this knowledge, one who starts practicing this knowledge, living this knowledge, such a person is ever liberated. Not only that, such a person becomes one with me, the Lord says. So this ultimate liberation, this greatest success of this human existence is gained by knowing this knowledge. If somebody makes a declaration like that and opens his discourse, all of the listeners would pay more attention. So having gained this attention, and he is doing this not by exaggerating about this knowledge, but stating the fact that this is the greatest knowledge, gaining which one is liberated, one is able to experience undiluted, infinite, eternal bliss, and that is Godhood, that is being one with the Lord. After these two verses, Bhagavan talks briefly about creation, about which there may be some question, that does Prakriti herself create everything? How does this knower and known, seer and seen, kshetrajna and kshetra come together to create? So in the next two verses, the third and the fourth verses, Bhagavan talks about this creation and says that this, my Prakriti, Maya, she creates. But how? I enlive in her. This consciousness, when Bhagavan says I in the Gītā, we need to understand he is not talking about the divine flute player of Vrindavan. He is talking about the self in all, the all-pervading Brahman. That self, that life principle enlivens, empowers this Maya, this Prakriti, and this creation comes about. So he says that this Maya Prakriti is like the mother of creation, no doubt, but the father who empowers the mother to create, he says that I am. Now, actually speaking, the one who is having the power and his power, the Shakti and the Shaktiman, these two are not two different entities. We need to understand. But poetically, when we express, we have to talk about two, but there are actually no two. The creative potential in this divine consciousness is what expresses and manifests as this creation. And from this comes the variety, the word of plurality, as Puja Gurudev often puts. So once we understand this, father of this entire creation is the Lord himself. He declares here. And when this Prakriti, the power, the Shakti, and the Lord, the Purusha, come together, the creation happens. Now there is a very important question that may arise at this stage as to Purusha is one Brahman, Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, existence, consciousness, bliss. And the Prakriti is Jada, inert. So this inert and the consciousness, they seem to be just one. Now this one Prakriti, one Purusha coming together, how can they create this variety? Even mathematically expressed, 1 multiplied by 1 can only result in 1. So how is this multiplicity, plurality coming into existence? That's when Bhagavan here, from the 5th verse onwards up to the 18th verse, Bhagavan takes us on a journey of understanding the cause of this plurality, this variety. And this plurality and variety is not just boring, it is colorful, it is beautiful. And it has 3 primary colors, which are called the gunas. So he introduces this topic of guna by just enumerating what are these 3 gunas. So he says Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna. These are the 3 gunas. And continuing what he had left in the 13th chapter, he says these are the 3 gunas which are binding the jiva or the individual. These 3 gunas which are Prakriti Sambhavaha. So now we say that these 3 gunas are in Prakriti or created out of Prakriti. We have to understand this again is a limitation of language, of conversation. When we have to express in words, we have to say these 3 gunas in Prakriti, or these 3 gunas of Prakriti, or these 3 gunas born out of Prakriti. But actually we have to understand this Prakriti, this Maya Shakti itself is called the 3 gunas. The 3 gunas is Maya. So these 3 gunas are the ones which bind us. And here, very beautifully, Sri Krishna addresses Arjuna as He Mahabaho, the one with mighty arms. Oh, mighty armed ones, these three gunas, when they bind, no might will help. Only the vision of knowledge helps. So here, after enumerating, Bhagavan says that how do these gunas act upon the individual or upon us? How do they bind us? So individually, each guna is talked about, saying that the sattva guna binds by creating attachment for pleasure, creating attachment for knowledge. Even knowledge and some pleasure gives a kick. We feel, I want more of it. I never want to leave it. I want to know more. So it becomes an obsession. That also becomes an attachment, a bondage. Same way, Rajoguna, it creates attachment towards action, activity. I can't sit peacefully. So that is what is the action and bondage created by Rajoguna. And the Tamoguna is the one which creates attachment to inaction, inertia, laziness, inadvertence. These are the binding factors of Tamoguna. Now, if we see these three gunas, they are also in our scriptures portrayed as different colors. Sattva guna is portrayed as white. White because it is brilliant, it is pure. And being pure and brilliant, it also has the capacity to express as joy and knowledge. And that's what we get bound by. The color red represents Rajoguna, activity. A lot of activity. I want to do this, I want to do that. And also red also indicates attraction. Red also indicates desire. Red also indicates anger. So all these are expressions of Rajoguna. And Tamoguna is represented by the black color. Black, which takes away all light, absorbs all light, means complete ignorance. There is no ignorance, and therefore there is dullness, there is laziness, there is inaction. So such kind of expressions are also there. And even in the modern colors, if we see whether on a machine or even when we learn to paint, etc., we say that there are three primary colors. And we balance between the three colors and create many colors. What are these three? They say RGB. Red, green and blue. These are the three colors which they generally say that mixing and matching these three, it gives rise to all the different colors and shades that are available today. And this RGB is what is Sattvagun, Rajogun, Tamogun. So R for Rajogun, G is great, good. So we can call it as Sattvagun, and B is bad. So Tamogun. So that way also we can say this SRT is RGB. So in that way, if we understand, the three gunas are the three basic colors of this creation, and of these big different combinations, we find the beauty that we have in this entire universe. So lot of beauty is there, but this beauty, in order to experience this beauty as beauty, we have to travel through this path that Sri Krishna is leading us. So here he talks about how each guna binds us with various aspects. And then he says, but then each guna is binding us either with knowledge, pleasure, either with activity or with dullness and laziness. But how do these three express, as in come into action? So he says that all three gunas, another very important concept we need to remember is these three gunas do not live individually alone. These three always live together, and they live everywhere in this creation. But when we say this particular guna has this effect and this binding, how does Sattva Gun express itself and bind? When it actually overpowers or dominates the other two gunas. That is, which are the other two gunas? The other two is Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Similarly, Rajoguna expresses itself and its effects are seen when it is dominating and overpowering the other two, that is Sattva-guna and Tamoguna. And same way the Tamoguna also expresses and is seen, experienced when the other two, Sattva-guna and Rajoguna, are overpowered. So each guna is there in all of us, but at different times, different occasions, one of the three is dominant and therefore its effects are seen in us, and based on the effect we diagnose which guna actually is controlling us or binding us. Now also we find that how can we identify what is this diagnosis? So Bhagavan also talks about the indicators, the symptoms that are created when Sattva Guna is dominant. We find that all our senses are very alert. Our mind is extremely single pointed. It has the capacity to absorb all information and data from the world, and that is what makes Sattva Guna a covetable guna of the three. For a seeker, for a person who is aspiring success. So gaining knowledge, knowing everything, being sensitive to the environment is all symptom of Sattva Guna. Rajaguna, on the other hand, is expressed as a greed, a desire to act, to start new things out of selfishness. I want to gain this, I want to achieve this, and therefore this urge to do something or the other all the time. So this symptom of Rajoguna. And when it comes to Tamoguna, there is indolence, there is dullness. Anybody calls our name, we just look there and say, that is Tamoguna, the overpowered Tamoguna. So this way we can identify based on the symptoms. The three gunas are meant to be, three gunas or Prakriti or Maya is also in other places called as Karyanumeya, one which is inferred to based on the effects that we see. So here also we find that the effects are indicated, and Bhagavan also says that when one dies at the time also, the guna that is most dominant, it will decide the journey of the jiva to the next birth. So which birth will I take next? Also this guna that is dominant at the time of death will decide where I go after this. So that also is pointed out. And after saying all this, Bhagavan finally says that as a conclusion of this topic, this portion, Bhagavan says that Sattva Guna, whoever has dominant Sattva Guna goes upwards, progresses upwards. Those who are dominantly Rajasic, have Rajoguna dominant, they are in the middle, and those who are Tamasic predominantly are going downwards. Now this going upwards, staying in the middle, going downwards, to explain this, Pujya Gurudev gives a beautiful example which is there in Gurudev's Holy Gītā, and he says, he gives this example of a staircase. So when there is a two-story building, from the ground floor I want to go to the first floor, typically the flight of stairs is a flight of stairs, and then there is a landing, and then there is a next flight of stairs, and then we reach the first floor. So the Pujya Gurudev explains, those in the first flight of stairs are like those who are predominantly tamasic in nature. Those who are at the landing, that is mainly human beings, are on in the middle, that is predominantly Rajasic in nature, and those in the upper flight of stairs are those which have more Sattva Guna, and they are further progress. They are considered to be more elevated or evolved than the Manushas, the human beings. When we get this picture, something very interesting emerges out, and that's the beauty of Puja Gurudev explaining Bhagavad Gita, is that the one who is in the landing, in the middle, has the option of going down or going up, and we human beings are there. So it is we have the free will to either make our lives or mar our lives. So here, after saying this, also Bhagwan feels that we must know how to get out of this also. So Bhagwan very briefly indicates that one who knows that this gunas are the ones in, when mixed and matched, create this entire world of plurality, but I am different from all this. When I thus know myself different from the gunas and its effects, I am liberated. And Bhagwan says, one who knows thus actually becomes one with me, means there is no difference between me and that seeker. So one who can go beyond these gunas and experience oneself to be the true self, such a person does not have to go through all these different painful experiences like birth, decay, death, etc. Now once Bhagwan paints this picture and says one who can view himself or herself as different and beyond these gunas is liberated, which means liberation is possible while living. That is also established here, Jivan Mukti. And this, once somebody is liberated while living, goes beyond these gunas while living, Arjuna, the very attentive and brilliant student, asks a question and asks actually 3 questions. He says, Bhagwan, what are the different indicators of a person who has gone beyond these gunas? Also, he wants to know, how does such a person transact in this world? One person who has known he is beyond the gunas, how does he transact in this world? And also the third very important question is, how does he actually move out, go beyond these gunas, to actually travel from bondage to beauty? So Bhagwan takes up one question after the other and answers. He says, the person who has gone beyond the gunas, who is called gunatita, the one who has transcended the gunas, such a person can be recognized because he himself does not need or go after a particular state or guna and is not averse to any guna. Often this happens to us. We want to be in sattva guna mostly all the time because we have read in the Gītā, and Bhagavad Gita says I should be established in sattva guna all the time. Therefore, I say I want to be in sattva guna. So anytime while I'm studying the Gita, I feel sleepy. I don't want that. I don't like that sleep. I want all the time, I want to be in sattva guna. So there is something that I want and there is something I do not want. Whereas such a person who is a gunatita, one who has gone beyond the gunas, for such a person, there is no liking, no dislike. And the same definition Bhagwan has given in the earlier chapters by saying that real sannyasi, a person who is a renunciate, is one who does not desire anything and is not averse to anything. Yo na dveshti na kankshati. Same thing here also he says that a person who is a gunatita is all the time in harmony with whatever is there around him, because he knows that all these differences are not affecting him. He is the substratum and all this play goes on. When I thus step back and watch it objectively, that's when I find this beauty in this whole world. Now, what about such a person's dealings with the world? So that also is very briefly pointed out here, saying such a person is unaffected by anything that happens. Unaffected does not mean he does not know what is happening or he does not care about what is happening. He is not agitated or affected by anything. He is compassionate, so he does help people whatever way he can. He does understand and have that feeling of joy at times of joy and sorrow at times of joy, but he is not affected by them. He is not overwhelmed by them. He is transacting at that level with people around. If someone gives good news, he smiles, he appreciates. If someone gives some bad news, he also expresses his empathy, sympathy, but he is not affected by any of this. And such a person, he knows that all these things will keep changing and I am beyond change. I am just the substratum which is ever changeless. So for such a person, with things, how does he deal with? For him, all things, samaloshtasma kanchanaha, whether it is a piece of stone, clay, or it is gold, all these things, for him, value wise, they are the same. He recognizes the differences, but he does not value gold more than the stone or clay. So for him, the realm of reality of all these things are the same. With people, how does he behave? For him, everything, whoever is praising him, he accepts gracefully. Whoever insults him, that also he accepts gracefully. He doesn't have anything that he desires or he does not like. Same way with situations also, whether it is something that otherwise would give joy to some ignorant person or something that someone does not like and gets saddened by, such situations also for such a person is sama, priya or apriya. Ninda, samstuti, whatever happens, he is at peace and in harmony with everything. He does not have distinctions like this is my friend, this is my enemy, this is good, this is bad. He is equanimous in all situations, with all people and with everything. Such a person is called a Gunatita. And finally, in the last two verses, Bhagavan answers the most important significant question of Arjuna as to how can we transcend the three gunas. So he gives this beautiful way, and it is very important for us also to understand this. He says, the one who serves me with single pointed devotion alone can go beyond these three gunas and get final liberation. So serving the Lord with utmost devotion, pure, unsullied, single-pointed devotion is what is the way indicated by Bhagavan here. Now, what is devotion? He has already elaborately talked about in the 12th chapter. So now he has just mentioned that whatever action we perform, and Puja Gurudev very beautifully says that devotion, the real test of a devotion and a bhakti yogi is not in the cave or in an ashram, but in the marketplace, in the society where a person is not affected by these different happenings and is able to perform all his actions as the worship of the Lord with total dedication and surrender. And Bhagavan says, I accept that, and while doing that, the person gets purified and all the time becomes one with me. So therefore he says, I am that immortality, I am that pure bliss, and such a person serving me with dedication and devotion comes to be one with me and experience that supreme self. So may we also take this instruction and serve the Lord with supreme devotion to be able to transcend these three gunas and travel from bondage to beauty. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.